Hello everybody, I hope you can hear me. Do please put a little message in the live chat if you can't. I've got this monitoring device on, which is just tuned in, so I'm hoping that I can hear myself. Yes, I can. Great. So I'm going to leave that to one side and say a big hello to everybody. And thanks ever so much for all the supportive comments that you came up with last week. It felt very, very, very odd. I mean, surreally odd to be standing here talking to what is in essentially, I'll show it to you one day. It's basically a shelf here, and I've got my metronome, and I've got a phone here, and I've got a, oh yeah, there it goes, and I've got an angel or a fairy cuddling a cat. This is what you're sharing my life with. There's Lily's crooked house that she made. This is quite nice. It's got little lights that flash up. I'll show you one of those later. And then I have a vase with some drumsticks. I mean, you can tell I'm a music teacher at heart, really, can't you? Instead of flowers, we have drumsticks in the vase. Anyway, so the comments that came in were really, really useful, and thank you very much all for your contribution. And let's hope that we learn something else today. What we're going to do is we're going to start with, and the reason I'm holding this glass, this is not a gin and tonic. This is a prop for later on, I promise you. Although I may be swapping it for a gin and tonic later. So here we go, and I'm going to angle this slightly lower so that we can, there we are. Right, so please remember, let's stand up and get ourselves moving. So up on tiptoes, down on heels, up on tiptoes, down on heels. Oh, I fell over there. And just rock forwards and back on your foot so that you lift your toes up and then you lift your heel up. Okay, don't try this at the same time. Until you are nicely, you've been made aware of the fact that you've got 2 points of contact with your feet, or you should have 2 main points, one at the front, the ball of your foot, and one at the back, the heel. And that's where you should feel yourself nicely balancing. And then bend down your knees into that plie, and then up again until your knees are almost straight, but not quite. Okay, so that you haven't found yourself locked. And we're then going to do the same thing that we did last time. It's one hand here, one hand there, into the sailor's dance position, and take a gentle breath. No glamorous assistance today. I'm really sorry, but they were quite busy. They haven't gone out. They're just upstairs. One gentle breath in, and remember, you need to relax these muscles on the breath in. So this needs to come forwards and out as you breathe in, and then relax. And we're doing that again. Gentle breath in and relax, but gently push. And always remember, the more pressure that you put here, the more you need to constrict, the more you need to concentrate on making sure that this stays nice and open. Now remember our posture, please. Imagine that your crown up here, imagine, the Stan Laurel School of Singing. Just pull that up slightly so that you feel that you're being suspended from there, okay? And feel that the back of your neck is stretching upwards. And then while we're at that, let's just do that thing about dropping your head to the right, gently rolling it down. Don't try and do anything too, it's like yoga, this. You've got to gently make sure that you stretch the muscle rather than giving it a twinge. Okay, and let's gently go over to the other side. Stretch out this muscle. One technique I was given of doing this is gently drop the head over to one side, but then think about pointing your chin at the ceiling, and that will cause the maximum amount of stretch to this. Okay, and then you should feel an inch or two taller. Okay, let's go back to breathing, and we're going to take in a gentle breath here again, and then we're going to release that on a gradual F, and then when I indicate by that, I'd like you to make sure you do 3 short stabs. So watch, and it's this. And try and make sure that at the end of that you have completely utilized all of the muscle movement down here and that you have no breath left. Okay, so and gentle breath in. Good. At the end of it, it's always quite worthwhile to hold the breath, not constricting it here. Keep this open, but hold the breath with your muscles and then relax, because that way you can feel it even further. Okay, this time we're going to do the same thing, but as you push the air out, and when we get to the stabs, I'd like you to do 5 little stabs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here we go. Good. Try 7 little stabs. Ready? And. Good. Try 9 little stabs. Gently breathe in. Out. That starts getting a little bit a little bit harder down here. You need to start putting a little bit more pressure a little earlier on to make sure that that's happening. Let's try that one more time. Take in the gentle breath. At the end of which you should feel completely empty. Good. And now let's take in the gentle breath and a nice, relaxed, easy breath out on any pitch you like. So breath in. We're going to do the same thing, but with those 3 little stabs. So gentle breath in. By the end of which, hopefully, you will have completely emptied that out. Try that same thing again, just those 3 stabs. And good. And we'll take that breath in and let's do 5 little stabs. And good. 7 little stabs. Nine little stabs. And good. And we're going to give you some pitch now. Here's a nice B flat major chord. Well, it's a B flat major chord. Ugh. It's beginning to curdle milk, that chord. Sorry about that. So we're going to start there, and I'd like you to take it right up the octave. So. At the end of which I want you to feel again that you've utilized all the muscle movement that you're going to get, but that this is all still nice and open. Okay, so arm there, gentle breath in, and good. Now, it's at this point that this glass comes in handy. Some people, having described it this way, it would I'd find it very difficult to understand if anybody found that difficult to do. But some people find it very difficult to do. I had one pupil, into his 70s, who was completely incapable of doing that. He could sing the word love with no problem at all, but if you asked him to identify that sound and extract it and separate it and produce it on its own, he simply couldn't do it. And so I had to start with this. This is the glass of water with a straw. Now, preferably, you want to be using a cocktail straw, so one that's slightly smaller than that, but this will have to do. Now, if you're finding trouble with this, a good little technique to start off with is just to blow bubbles into the water, gently producing the similar amount of bubbles all the time. So and if you try that at home, you will find that that initial amount of breath is actually quite strong. It doesn't just come flooding out. It has to be, and the thinner a straw you use, the better from that point of view. Earlier, around Easter time, we as a family were blowing Easter eggs. I mean, sort of taking eggs, pricking holes in both ends and blowing the contents out and making an omelette, and then decorating the eggshells. And that takes a hell of a lot of lower abdominal squeezing. But it's and so you don't need that much pressure when you're singing. It's much gentler, but you do need the direction of breath to be supported by that set of muscles. Okay, so the next thing you could do with this glass of water is then to sing down it. I've filled this glass too much up. This is coming everywhere. But nevertheless, did you notice that that initial breath that I wanted to take just wouldn't come out? I think there's too much water in here. Let's try it again. And again, you will find that that's quite a degree of air pressure that's required. But what you can then do is you can move up and down the scale and see whether the flow of air stays equal. In my case, it does, just because I've done an awful lot of practice on it. But try that at home and see whether you aren't doing anything in the way if anything's getting in the way of your top notes. It's quite often on the top notes that people will shy away and try and produce a sound that's slightly less useful. Okay, right, we're going to put that to one side for the moment, but give that a go in the privacy of your own home, preferably when none of your family are watching, because they'll all think you've got it. Here's the next one. Ready? And 3. And on to the next one. 1, 2. I forgot to hold the last one on. Yeah, do hold it on right to the end. Unless you're unless your dinner was so recent that it's causing you issues, in which case take it easy. Now, make a recording of the video and watch it later. Here we go. Deep breath and now try and make sure that your head's staying still and that it's not dropping up and down. And here's the last one for the basses and altos. And 1. Good, okay. And we're actually going to drop down again to here. And what I'd like to hear this time is the same. Well, I'm not going to hear it, am I? But you know what I mean. I'd like to hear, we're going to do that slide up and down twice to an octave on a V, but then I'd like you to do the little at the end of it, okay? So here's the breath. Listen to it once. Okay, by which time you should really have utilized everything there. Here we go. And 1. Good. Upper semitone. 1 and. Great. And 1, 2. Great. 1. Great. Now, instead of v, I'd like you to change that to our new vowels for today. Last week we looked exclusively at E and air. This week we're going to look at oo and ah. Ooh and ah. Now for these, you need to practice your long face. Okay, so we tend to, in English, keep everything very much behind a little mask here, don't we? Sort of talk like that. The posher you are, less you'll move your mouth. But for a singer, you need to move your mouth a lot. Ooh, ah, oh. So do try and make sure, if you can see that my jaw has actually hit the buffers. It's gone as low as it can into, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but I will mention it quite a lot, the sleeping grandfather position. Ooh. Now it's worth practicing that in front of a mirror, because plenty of people will get themselves into what they think is the right position or what actually is the right position, and then start singing. Ooh, don't do that. Don't find yourself guilty of that particular little thing. Keep the jaw nice and loose, and we'll do that on a. Let's take it down to a B again. So, ready? 1. And I'd like you to make quite a close shape here, but with your jaw nice and open. So you're making a big space that's filling your head. Upper semitone. You should feel the air flowing past your lips, almost like a whistle. Ready? And 1. And upper semitone. 1, 2. Now, the higher you go, particularly ladies, you can start opening this up a little bit more. Feel that this is the size of a Malteser. You will go out and buy a packet of Maltesers later and find out what that is. Ready? And. So you might have noticed my jaw's actually opening slightly more as we get to the top. Basses and altos, stay with me on this. Here we go. 1. Now, if you find that your voice, if you're a man or a tenor or a bass, and you found that your voice has gone into that one, it means that you have forgotten to produce enough airflow from here. So remember that this needs to be what we call supported. Every time I mention support, it means that these muscles need to be doing the work to bring this back inside as we're going through. And certain sounds, particularly higher up, need more breath energy. They need more breath pressure underneath the glottis to not the epiglottis, the larynx. Subglottal pressure, we call it. Right, let's try our next one. If you're finding yourself getting too high, then take a break. But sopranos and tenors, you should still be here, and some altos and some basses, I reckon, can still do this. 1. And 1 more. 1. Head back, jaw down, and 1 more. 1, 2. Now, if you are finding this a little bit of a strain, just think our next topic of conversation will be where the tongue is. Just make sure that it's dropped forwards and touching your bottom front teeth. There. on the inside. Don't try that. Ooh, ready? One, and. Good. Now, everybody, can we try to make some, and this is going to sound a little bonkers, but I'd like you to make some witch noises, okay? We're all going to do a sort of a little mad cackle. Can you try that? Yeah, exactly. That kind of sound. It's a slightly tenorial sound. I mean, not a particularly pleasant tenorial sound, but it's nevertheless part of what, I mean, it's got an official singer's name. It's called squeal register. Okay, that and tenors use it a great deal. But sopranos, you can find that very, very useful as well. And we're going to talk about what's going on there in just a moment for these different vowels. Right, now from oo to aw. So here we are back to a nice C. Welcome the basses and altos back in, and we'll take this. Keeping your head back and making sure your jaw is equally open on oo and aw. Ready? 1, 2. Upper semitone. 1, 2. That's good. Remembering your breath from here, that it takes a relaxed position on the way in. I'm having to remind myself to keep banging on that. Okay, here we are. Here's the next one. Ready? Relaxed breath. 1. And the next one, relaxed breath. Okay, sopranos and tenors continue. And 1, 2. And one more. 1, 2. Keeping the head back. And 1, 2. And one more. 1, 2. Notice that as we've gone higher and we're now on a G, everything's increased in its space. Okay, you remember I spoke to you last week about that Janet Baker. Unfortunately, it's not on there, but look her up on YouTube. Look at the mouth. Look at Joyce DiDonato. There's another classic example of formant tuning. We'll be talking about formants in a minute. Okay, and sopranos and tenors. One more. Now, really open on the oo and the aw. 1, 2. And you might notice that the oo and the aw are pretty much indistinguishable when we get up to that. Okay, and that's as it should be. Keep everything nice and open. Oh, I heard a scream from upstairs. I think that my daughter's being murdered in her bath. Maybe. Right. I wanted to move on to talk about formants. What is the difference between a harmonic and a formant? Well, a harmonic is something that happens to everybody's voice in their larynx. The vocal folds, as soon as you apply breath to them and bring them together, they start vibrating in any number of ways. Of course, the main way that they vibrate is simply fixed at both ends with a vibration happening in the middle. So a fixed at that end, a fixture at that end, and this entire length here will be vibrating, okay, fully from that end to that end. But like anything, they are vibrating in different ways again. There's tremendous fun that you can have with your acoustic piano. And if you're really lucky, some Kawai digital pianos have been programmed to do this as well, which I found incredible when I first discovered it. I'm just going to illustrate this to you for a moment from down here at the piano. Here is a C. And that string in there is vibrating, stuck at both ends, and it's vibrating like that. But it's also vibrating a little like this. And it's also vibrating, and this becomes slightly more difficult as it goes on, a bit like this. Okay, with 3 vibrations and 2 nodes, and a little bit with 3 nodes and 4 vibrations, and it keeps going a little bit with 5 vibrations and 4 nodes, and it just keeps going. But each of those harmonics, there is slightly less intensity within the sound. Now we can prove this because if I play this note down here, that bottom C, that note is nicely ringing out. But listen to what happens if I press that key down. This will be interesting if it worked. If I press that key down, and now if I hit this key here, listen. Can you hear that? Can you hear that that note is coming out? But it's not that key that I'm hearing, it's this one. Because that is the first harmonic. And if I do the next harmonic, that one rings as well. So I've got these 2 notes now. And this one. They all ring nicely to this one string. And this one. And this one. And that one. And that one. So we can actually bring all of that sound out. And I'll bring the microphone over just so that you can hear it. Here is the full chord, the full harmonic series. I hope you can hear that. There we go. Well, that's happening in your voice as well. Every time you sing a note, you think, well, I'm just producing this note. Whereas in fact, I'm producing. There's a little bit of that coming out, whether you like it or not. And there's a bit of that, and a bit of that. Singing each of those individual pitches then becomes progressively more difficult. Those vowels govern what, those harmonics govern what vowel we hear. Okay, so if, for example, you filter out all of those upper harmonics, we hear ooh, an ooh vowel sound, a very dark ooh vowel sound. Okay, it's the sound made by a sine wave with no filtering whatsoever. And the more we open our mouths and the brighter the vowel sound becomes, the more of those harmonics are released. So that's just a filtering process, and my mouth is causing the filtering. Okay, those are harmonics. Formants are something different. In the undercroft at St. Paul's Cathedral, as we walk into the main body of the cathedral, there is this little channel that we need to walk through where the bottom note F sharp, can't sing it very loudly, really, really resonates. It's built to resonate to that, the space in that channel just is the right size to resonate to a bottom F sharp. And so even if I go in and sing with my woofly bottom bass voice, it'll really, really ring so that everybody can hear it. That's a formant. And you have these channels inside your body, in your vocal tract, all the way from here to there, up into your nose and the sinuses. And then there's another sinus at the back of the nose. As we go right back in here, there's another little pocket that opens up there. Very useful again for sopranos and tenors singing very high notes. Those areas resonate to different notes. and accentuate different harmonics when you are singing them. And therefore, we need to change the shape of the vocal tract when we are singing different vowels. It's no use just opening your lips and hoping that the vowel will change. In order to sing each vowel well, you need to change the shape of your vocal tract, and we need to learn to stretch on each of those vowels. And so we're going to do some vocal exercises now that involve singing different vowels through the voice and trying to keep as much resonance as we're looking for. We're going to start with E. So E is quite an easy one. And I'd like you to, we're going to start on there, middle C if you like. And we're going to start by singing a scale going up an octave plus one and then back down. So listen. And I'd like you to make that as witchy and as Bugs Bunny as you can. I've run out of breath there. Let's try that one again. Upper semitone, E, 1 and 2. Good. Try and make the shape of your mouth as narrow as possible by raising your tongue within your mouth. Up there. And one more. 1, 2. And see if you can latch on to that sparkling resonance that I'm looking for on an E vowel sound. Make it as brilliant, and actually, and with some people, they can really only make the right sound when I ask them to sound ugly. So try to make it really quite acerbic. Upper semitone. I've lost where we are now. That one. Ready? 1, 2. I feel much more comfortable there because it's more tenor register. 1, 2. As we're going higher, you want to build this space just a little bit more. Feel your jaw stretching apart. Okay, tenors and sopranos, carry on. 1, 2. It's a really, really good voice warm-up. Okay, we're going to take that down again to bass and alto territory. Starting there. Start that one, and then I'd like you to go up on E, but then change to E as you come down. So make sure that stays closed. Okay, it's all coming out of here. Even though you may be making quite an acerbic sound, don't let the sound start coming out of here. Okay, here we are. 1 and 2. Good. Upper semitone, and I'd like you to try air going to R. 1, 2. Again, keeping that brilliance in place. Okay, good. Going to O. 1, 2. Feel that your jaw has dropped and you've become long-faced for that O vowel sound. Okay, next one up. O going to U. 1, 2. Now, if you've you've done the ooh the way we've been doing it earlier, you'll have noticed that all of that upper resonance, all of that ping, if you like, the spin in the sound, will have disappeared. Ooh. So I would like you, bizarrely, to think ooh a little bit closer to E. So try this, taking it here. No. I'd like to sing there and sing from E to oo and see if you can keep that little bit of buzz going. Try avoiding letting everything disappear. Try it. 1, 2. So you are the best judge of this as to whether it's working or not. You need to think about that that brightness and see if you can hold on to it through the oo vowel sound. It will mean that your jaw is higher than we've been talking about previously. Ready? So we're going to sing. 1, 2. And when you're doing this, just remember a little bit more of a yawn now to increase that sound and make sure that everything can blend into the same sort of area in your voice. Okay. Same thing, 1 and 2. One and 2. So trying a little bit brighter within the the singing teachers always used to refer to the mask. This is what we want. That area of resonance to work. Don't breathe out through your nose. That's a different one though. Ready? 1, 2. Good. I reckon basses and altos should be able to carry on one more. 1 and 2. And if you find yourself developing a little bit of natural vibrato, that's absolutely fine. Love a little bit of vibrato into the sound. Sopranos and tenors, continue. 1, 2. Up 1, 1 and as we're going higher, don't forget jaw needs to drop down, even on the E vowel sound. And the next one, 1 and 2. Keep your tongue dropped forwards and touching those bottom front teeth. Excellent. Right. Well done. I think you might find yourself a bit vocally warmed up. Just shake your hands out. And we're going to do a little bit of work with tonic sol fa on a nice B flat major chord. And I'm going to introduce you to this. Some of you may have done this at school. Some of you may have taught it. I know a few of you have taught it. And so this may be like the teaching grandmother to suck eggs. But it's always worth re-practicing those skills, or you could just go off and make a cup of tea now if you know this all. Ready? But for many people, this will come as a new one. Here is a hand symbol. We call this Kodai method, although it wasn't developed by Kodai. It was furthered by Kodai. It was actually invented by a very formidable Victorian English music teacher whose name temporarily escapes me. I'll find out for next time. Right, so here is our do. And we're going to make sure that we don't sing do. We're not going to sing it like that. We're going to sing the thing that you walk in through. Do, to a nice proper or vowel sound. Okay, so do, do, do. Well, one note is not going to make much of a tune, but we've already got another note, haven't we? We've got do and we've got do, do. So you'll be sight reading already if you do this. Do. Whoops, this feels quite low for me. Do, do, do. So as I do these hand symbols, I'd like you to sing along. Ready? 1, 2. Do, 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 do. Great. Your sight reading, albeit one note and 2 pitches. We're going to introduce you a new note, and there's a reason I'm doing these in this order. Our second note is saw. Okay, so don't think sew a needle pulling thread, Parche, Rogers and Hammerstein. It's saw as in cutting up a particularly hard lump of bread. That's a better lyric, right? And our hand symbol for that is this one. So we've got 2 notes now, and here it is. Do, so, do. And there's a very particular magic to that sound, the perfect fifth. It's the basis of all harmony, so we've got to make sure that that's in tune. Make sure you're singing with long jaws on each of those. Do, so, do. Okay, here we go. We're going to make up some tunes using do and so. Do, do, so, so, do, so, 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 do, so, do, so, do. Later on, you'll have to tell me whether the video is actually tying in with what you can hear me sing, because sometimes I realize it may be a bit laggy, in which case in future I may have to shut up and let you do the singing. I'm going to go up a semitone because it's a little low for me, and we're going to introduce a new note, an exciting departure. We're going to take from so up 1 to la. Okay, so this is do, so, la, so, do. Feels a natural step up onto that top note, doesn't it? Ready and go. Do, so, la, so, do. And then we can utilize the top do as well. So here we go. Do, do, so, so, la, do, so, do, do, la, so, do. And we'll go up onto the next one, which is re. So there's our next one, and it's a horizontal karate chop. Sorry, diagonal karate chop. Do, so, do. So you don't actually need to do these hand symbols, but I find in my experience that it actually helps to be doing them just to cement the link between note, word, and hand symbol. Okay, let me just check the pitch. So, do, re, do. Sing me that. Do, re, do. Sol, la, sol. Sing me that. Sol, la, sol. Do, la, sol. Sing me that. Do, la, sol. So, re, do. Good. So, re, do. Great. So hopefully this will have started to reinforce the idea that our memory of pitch becomes very important when we're sight reading. Memory of pitch, being able to remember for quite some time what do sounds like, so that when I do that, do, it can just come out. And when we do so, and when we go do, re, do. Okay, well done. So far, so far, so good. We've utilized do, re, so, la, and do up there. We've got one more to go for the moment, and that's mi. Do, re, mi. Sing me out. Do, re, mi, mi, re, do. Sing back. Mi, re, do. So now we're going to utilize all of them, and I'll do the hand symbol and sing slightly later. So here we go. Do, so, do, so, do, so, la, so, mi, so, mi, so, mi, re, so, do. Great. So pitching all of those notes isn't really a problem. And you all have noticed that what we've done is we've produced a pentatonic scale. Do, re, mi, sol, la, do. What's wrong with the other two notes? There's a problem with them. And lots of musical historians have worked out, yes, musical ethnographers have worked out that that pentatonic scale predates all the other scales by quite some margin. It's to be found in folk music, going through to Indonesia, through to China, through to Celtic music, into Africa. It's found over and over again. Not always in exactly the same form, but a 5-note scale is so ancient as to really form the basis of all music. And it makes sense because all of those notes, do, re, mi, and sol, la, they are all tones apart. There are no semitones within that scale. Now, obviously, you have the bigger gap. You have mi, so, which is a third. And we also have the la, do, which is also a third. But let's not worry about those too much. We're concentrating on the fact that the main portions of those scales are all tones, because that formed the basis of music for a very long time. And on that sheet of paper I have given you, which I will try to bring up in front of me now, on that sheet of paper in front of you, which I asked you to print off, you will see a picture of the pentatonic scale starting do, re, mi, sol, la, do. And as you will have seen, I've just drawn that out on 3 lines with no clef, because we've fixed where do is. I've already written it in. So we know where do is. We don't need to utilize a clef for anything like that. Okay? Now, ignore the second one for the moment, and we will move down to the 3rd page of writing, where you have some pentatonic exercises. This would be a good one for you to try at home. Go through those exercises, choose a nice, comfortable note for yourself for do. Do, re, mi, sol, la, so, mi. But always remember that little gap. Do, re, mi, sol, up to there. Okay? And slowly you'll have found, as we go through that, my guide letters have disappeared. But do always starts in the same place. Okay? Do is always that first note that we start on, okay, up until exercise number 9, which throws everybody by starting on so, do. Okay, so that's one for you to try in the meantime when we're not working together. Okay, and then you might also want to look at your next exercise down there at the bottom at number 10, which is a kind of pentatonic. It's not quite pentatonic, it's quarter tonic if you like, but the Alleluia. Alleluia, which some people will remember singing in one of the Bruckner motets. Alleluia. And on that page over on the right hand side, you'll see Ye Banks and Braes, a perfectly pentatonic scale. Ye banks and braes of morning noon, how can ye bloom, etc., etc. Okay, so that's something for you to have a little look at in your own time. And we'll come to this Guidoian hand on the third page, on second page rather, later. For the moment though, I wanted to take you back and see if we can now do some work on this Hubert Parry piece. So what I'd like you to do is to locate that from last week. See if you've got that with you. Hopefully you've kept it by the computer. And we're going to start working our way through there. What I'd like to do is to start with tenors and basses who are assembled. But sopranos and altos, obviously, while this is happening, you are welcome to sing through that as well. So here is the alto note, there is the soprano note. And for the moment, we're counting in quavers, and it's very gently, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Music wells of voices vibrates, vibrates Good, okay, and we're going to take a very, very gentle pause, but not a breath, at the end of the second bar. So you could mark that in, please. Okay, lovely. Sopranos and altos, let's hear you. 1, 2. Lovely. Let's run that all together, please. 1, 2, 3, go. Great, tenors and basses. Let's carry on from bottom line, second bar. Oh, here's another one where we need to make sure our vowel is nice and open. Oh, not does. Oh, does. Really make sure it's nice and open there, please. Stretch the jaw. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Try and make sure that we have a diminuendo over the last word, the quicken. And it still needs to be 2 quavers long, which is quite a long time within this music, and because of the slowness. We'll pick up a little bit of pace later on. Sopranos and altos, let's take you, please, from your odors. Here it is. 1 and 2. And. 3. So I was so obsessed with getting the alto part right, I didn't notice the sopranos. Let's take it from Liv, please. Liv, 2, 3, 4. Good. So that little funny X sign in the alto part is a double sharp. Don't ask me why a double sharp. A double sharp will take you from F to F sharp to G. Why don't they spell it as a G? Because it's not grammatically a G. This music is in G sharp, or at that point takes us to G sharp. Okay, minor, but you can't have a G in the scale of G sharp minor. You have F double sharp. So let's take everybody, please, from Odors. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Let's take tenors and basses on from the next phrase. Rose leaves. 2, 3, 4. Thank you. Everybody can please mark in a quick breath after the word heaped for the second time. I heaped for the... Do I mean that? In red, I heaped... No, I don't. I mean for the first time. I'm so sorry. So that is in on page 2, bottom line, first bar, immediately after the first 3 quaver beats. I heaped, and then moves on. Okay, let's take the sopranos and alto from their rose leaves. Here it is, page 2, top line, third bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Okay, altos, really, really enjoy your chromatic movement there. If for the beloved bird. And really concentrate on your tuning through there. Lovely. Let's hear everybody from their rose leaves. Here is a G and a B and a G sharp. 2, 3, 4. Sorry. You'll have sung that better than I'll have played it. I forgot all about my tenor B sharp. Okay, let's carry on, please. And sopranos and altos from and so. 1, 2. I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. Tenors and basses. Here is your note in case you'd like to be sight reading it anyway. And altos, sopranos. 1, 2, 3. Lovely this moment. Right, let's take it, please, from the last note of the middle page with the tenors and basses. And again, sopranos and altos, sing along, please. Here's your E, there's your G sharp, basses, tenors. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Sorry, I'll start that again. Michael, sorry. 1 and 2. And one last time with everybody. Here it is, the last note of that middle page. And 3 and 4. Great. So that is the first piece that we're going to try to make a recording of together. So what I will do is, and I've had a little experiment of this, I've not quite got it right yet, but I'm going to produce a video with me conducting that piece in the way that we'd like to have that performance, plus a little track as an accompaniment. And so what I would like to, do to finish this off is to play you that track as it will be, that you can then sing along to, because obviously my piano skills aren't quite up to that. So I hope you've enjoyed this. The reason I've left this bit to the very end is because it might not work. It has worked the last 3 times I've tried it, but once on one occasion, it simply didn't work, and I had no idea why, and I wasn't able to get the sound back afterwards. So we will play this track through. I hope it works. If not, we will see you at the Zoom meeting, which will start up in about 5 minutes' time. Look forward to seeing you there. Bye.